What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Bryant Costa, and today we have a fantastic episode in store for you guys. We are going to be breaking down all the latest from the Boston Celtics 4-0 sweep of the Brooklyn Nets, as well as the latest developments in Major League Baseball with Angel Hernandez. Obviously, it's going to be a very NBA-centric episode, very Celtics-centric, because the boys got the brooms out. They did the job against the Brooklyn Nets. Going to be really excited to talk about that on this show. But before we get into that, you guys, we have a special guest on the show tonight. Unfortunately, Tyler, my co-host, is out for the night. So I have a special guest on the show for you today. He is actually currently a manager with the Bryant University men's basketball team and is an avid sports fan of his own. So without any further ado, please welcome to the show, Mr. Michael Callinan. Michael, glad to have you on the show, man.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Brian, for having me. I appreciate the invitation, and I can't wait for the discussion we're going to have tonight.
Absolutely, man. I know for yourself, you're interested in becoming an avid sports fan. Well, not an avid sports fan, but in becoming a podcaster yourself. I'm really excited for, some of the opportunities you have there. So I say we get right into the swing of things and, kind of get it started from there.
Sounds good, boss. Let's get going.
Absolutely, dude. So first things first, again, congrats to the Boston Celtics. 4-0 sweep of the Nets. I mean, we went down in 5 to these guys last year. Did you think at any point that this was within the realm of possibility? Until it happened, I was like, there's no way we're going to sweep the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, these guys handed it to us last year. So the fact that we just flipped the script on them like this is incredible to me.
I couldn't agree anymore. Like, the big thing with me was like the way we started off the season too, and then the way we turned around. And at the end of the day, like everyone you talked to any ESPN analysis and everyone like that, they thought this series going 7 series.
100%.
So at the end of the day, I think it surprised a lot of people. And like Shaq made a great quote of this when he said it. It was like, it came down to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and they had to show they weren't students anymore. And they had to show KD and Kyrie we're the teachers now. We're the ones running the show. And I think they did that, and they proved it that series.
No, I mean, they 100% proved it this series. Jason Tatum, in my mind, has entered into that top 5 conversation in the NBA at this point, which, he was kind of always the out, like almost like a top 15 guy at this point. But, from what I've seen from Jason Tatum this year, he's proved that he's in that conversation. He's, in a league of his own. He is one of those star players in the NBA now, which as a Boston Celtics fan, I am thrilled to see. It's been long enough, man. I mean, we somehow in the middle of rebuilding, we've been able to make runs to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't get how that's possible, but we somehow do that. And then we'll have years where we, have a guy like Kyrie Irving, at full strength, guys like Gordon Hayward at full strength, and we go out in the second round. So for a while, it just seemed like there was no kind of path with us. And this year, it actually seems like we have an actual, some actual idea of how good the Celtics team can be. I mean, obviously the Brooklyn Nets are full of issues, but the fact that we handled them like this is incredible. I mean, after game 1, people were saying this is just the start of it between these two teams. Like, it's only going to get better from here. Yeah, Boston stole game 1, but who's going to say Brooklyn can't come out and do that exact same thing in game 2? And I mean, that was everyone's perspective on this series. Everyone thought that, Boston kept, Kyrie went off, but KD was, held relatively in check. Everyone thought they can't do that, for another game. And surprisingly, they did it for another 3, which is incredible. So, I mean, credit to them, man.
I give all the credit to Celtics. They came out, they were dogs from the start, and they played like animals, and they just played so aggressive, like young, hungry dogs. And the Brooklyn Nets had nothing to do with it. I mean, they had no fight. And here's the thing. So they got us down. We were down 17 points. The Celtics were down 17 points.
Yes.
In the second quarter of the game 2. And the Celtics came back and won that game. And then I thought going into Brooklyn, I was like, all right, KD's home.
It's going to be a reality check.
What I'm saying?
Like coming back from 17 points, it's like, okay, you have the guard in your favor, but at a certain point, it's like, all right, reality is going to set in. We're going to Brooklyn. They're going to be loud and chirping, and they'll probably swing one back 100%. Their way.
I thought they were gonna win game 3, and then I thought game 4 was gonna be tough. But I won game 3, and like the game 3, it just Brooklyn looked so deflated. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It was like Celtics were running the show. Everything was going their way. Tatum was doing well. Brown was getting his buckets. And it was just like, they just had no fight. You know what I'm saying? There was no energy.
No, yeah.
And like, there was no one stepping up. Be like, hey, we got to step it up. We got to turn something on. There's like, there was no leadership. And that's that's what this team was missing.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, that's why they got swept. And
yeah,
that was it.
No, I mean, it's incredible what that just the fact that they went down like this. I mean, you have two of the premier stars in this league, and also talking about Kyrie Irving, who, we'll get into his antics in just a second, but, you could have made a case that he was, that him having all these, issues at the beginning of the year with, the whole vaccination policy and him taking all this time off. A lot of people were saying that's only going to benefit him because, you're going to get him at his fresh. At his absolute peak. Because there were points where he's like dropping like 60, like he was having, he was just absolutely cooking out there. So it was like, all right, Kyrie's going to be absolutely dangerous. And in game one, he was. And then people were like, all right, Kevin Durant's going to come out there and do his thing. And I know he scored, like 39 points in that last game, but he's shooting 42% from the field. And it's like, what is going on with this guy? Like,
yeah, and and their offense was so stagnant.
Oh my God.
It's not like they had bad role players. Like Seth Curry's a very good shooter. He's a sharp shooter. Bruce Brown played a hell of a series.
Absolutely.
And I think he was very underrated, and he finally started to get talked about in game 3 and game 4.
Absolutely.
But he turned up his game. I like the center they had too, Claxton. Claxton played very good and gave him great minutes because Drummond wasn't getting done at all.
Yeah, except in game 4 when he turned into Claxton because he missed like 10 shots in a row.
It cost him.
Yeah, I mean, that was huge for those guys. I mean, but Claxton did have his time, moments. Another guy too, which is he's always just been a Celtics killer, is Goran Dragic.
Oh, I mean, God, all the time.
Since his days of the Heat, he's always just like taking it to the Celtics, and it's like, why can't we just stop this guy? Like,
it's crazy.
Like it makes no sense. But like, I think it was game 2. I think he was back in game 1, and he hadn't played in a couple of days, and he had like 17 points like after like the first like 3 quarters, and I'm like, what the hell is going on with this guy? Like, he always just has our number.
His little floating layups, and like I said, he had a few big threes. But like going back to the Celtics, it was just the way they played Kevin Durant.
100%.
Kevin Durant never felt comfortable in any game, in any part of the game too. And I think at the day that was going. And then Kyrie didn't step up in game 3 or game 4 at all in the brink of elimination.
Well, I mean, even game 2 where he didn't necessarily play terrible. I mean, it wasn't, the greatest after that. But I think as soon as, in game 1, like he actually ran that game. He was incredible in game 1. 39 points was awesome for them. And I think basically after, the flipping off of the fans, saying, stuff I can't say on this show to certain fans afterwards, I think, the league got in his head, the league got to him and said, hey, if you do that again, we're going to, heavily suspend you. And, I think that kind of deflated him. And he ended up saying, well, if I can't like go at these guys and they're allowed to go at me, like, why, how am I going to be able to show up and, have my edge? And I think that really affected him and, probably and inevitably cost him down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So obviously, now the Celtics move on. We're going to face the winner of the Bucks.
We're playing Milwaukee.
We're going to end up facing the Bucks. And, obviously that's going to be a very contentious series as well. But before we get into that though, just looking at the Brooklyn Nets though, they go down now. And, that James Harden trade is looking incredible, but and we'll touch on that in a second too. But what is going to go on with them next year? I mean, in my mind, Steve Nash has to be out the door. I mean, he was a complete non-factor as coach this year. I mean, he just basically stood on the sidelines. He would have been more valuable out on the court, at however old he is. I mean, because he had no impression on this team. Kyrie and KD ran the show, and he was basically just there because you technically need a coach on your roster. If there was no other reason, KD would have been the bona fide coach of that team.
So my counter argument to that is that, so if you're going to have Steve Nash walk out, then I think Kyrie Irving should walk out.
Oh, I think he should too.
Because Kyrie and KD, they wanted Steve Nash as their head coach.
Yeah.
So the blame goes 2 ways.
Oh, I agree. I definitely agree. It goes both ways. But the issue with that though is Steve Nash either wasn't qualified for the position, or KD and Kyrie just did not listen to him. Whereas, Steve Nash could maybe have some great ideas to, bring to the table. But if KD and Kyrie say, no, we want to do this. I mean, Steve Nash obviously is a Hall of Fame talent, one of the greatest players to ever touch basketball in this league. But at the end of the day, those guys are going to take precedent. They're going to end up, running the show. So I kind of feel like Steve Nash was just put in a terrible position. He's basically just a placeholder coach. He was more, I think, just named to have there than anything else. I mean, you look at the Celtics who, really upgraded in their coaching, in their coaching this offseason with Ime Udoka, you can see that growth of these guys. With the Nets, they inevitably regressed and they actually got worse under Steve Nash. So I think that he's probably going to be out the door. Kyrie Irving, I think, should be out the door. I mean, he literally proved that he has nothing. He's not reliable at this point. And I'm not talking about on the court because, we've seen what he was able to do this season, had incredible stretch runs, but about showing up and being able to be eligible for your home games and do all these things and not have these outbursts on the court. That's not really a certainty with Kyrie Irving. I mean, when he was in Cleveland, obviously things splintered apart there at the end, but in Cleveland, he was reliable enough to just be like, all right, yeah, he's LeBron's counterpart. He's going to do what he needs to do, and we can go from there. But now that's not the case anymore.
I agree. I think the biggest thing with Kyrie Irving is he said in his last press conference after Game 4, he's like, I don't want all that antics. I don't want anything that. I want the team ahead of me. And that's what he has to start doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's got to start putting the team first and realizing that we're in a day where we're in an industry, media industry especially, where stars are getting all the media. Mm-hmm. So when Kyrie Irving was not playing that home game because he chose not to get vaccinated, which was very clear, like they're just not going to not like publicize that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course it's going to get publicized.
And that the Nets had to go through that all year. And like the guys are hearing that, you know what I'm saying? And I think that he's got to realize, maybe it's just, I got to put my beliefs aside and just get this vaccine and just start playing.
And for me, it was never even about the whole vaccine thing. That was never even like the big thing with me, but always like, the burning sage rituals or doing like whatnot to like exercise the demons or stomping on the logo and, other things too. I mean, you talked about Bruce Brown, who was an incredible, who really stepped up in this series, him coming out and making comments about, the Celtics not having Rob Williams and that the fact that the Nets will be able to take it to him. I mean, you only fueled the fire for a Celtics team that was, ready to beat you. They had the opportunity.
Hot Celtics team.
Yeah. I mean, they had the opportunity to play for a loss against Memphis and could have faced the lower seeded Bulls team and basically played that out, but they opted to play for the win. They blew out the Grizzlies and they, chose to face you. And that evidently turned out to be the best possible decision because not only did they get the 4-0 sweep, and, being the only team, Nets being the only team to not win a playoff game this year, they also basically took out these top dogs and say, all right, we're coming for the rest of the league now.
That's right.
And, right. that seizes all the momentum. So I just don't know what's going to happen with them. I mean, it's crazy.
It is crazy. So obviously the first big thing is Kyrie going to accept or decline the player option?
Yeah.
And if he chooses to decline it, the Nets can pay him a 5-year, $247.7 million contract, but also he can extend that. He can extend his deadline. The Nets can offer him a 4-year, $189.9 million. So those are two offers he can take from the Nets. If he chooses to decline and leave, he could take a 4-year. Only other teams can only offer him a 4-year, $183.6 million. So that's a $63 million difference if he chooses to leave.
Yeah,
it's a huge difference. I don't see him leaving at all.
I don't know.
Personally, I don't, because that's a huge amount of money. And I think if he's going to win anywhere, he's going to win with the Nets.
Yeah. I mean, you can make a case for that. And I think that, that is fairly justified, but how old is Kyrie now? He's 30 years old.
And Kevin Durant's 33.
Yeah. So, I mean, Kevin Durant, he has they each have technically one more year. Kyrie would be up at the end of this year. So Kyrie Irving's going to get a contract till he's 36 and Kevin Durant till he's 38, 39. I mean, I just don't see that being likely at a certain point. I mean, I see KD could definitely lock down that kind of a contract because he's just an unreal talent. But, Kyrie Irving, I mean, while he's also an unreal talent, at playing the position he does in the way that he does, it's only a matter of time before, his body's going to kind of give out on him. So I don't know. So I don't know if he, just gets this massive payday and just accepts that. But if he's trying to win and the Nets might be going in a different direction, then I don't know if that's the case.
And I like you said before, you don't know with Kyrie and his antics. Like nothing's guaranteed with him. It's like Stephen A. Smith. If I'm a owner, if I'm a manager or anything, I offer Kyrie a year-to-year contract.
Yeah,
because you don't know what can happen in a year or two with Kyrie.
No, exactly. He could
Nothing is guaranteed.
He could go off to like war. like who knows what he's gonna do?
His mind just fluctuates. He's never thinking one thing. He's always thinking multiple things, and that's it. But another key thing I wanted to bring up. So in terms of free agency, the Nets have Bruce Brown, Andre Drummond, Goran Dragic, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Blake Griffin are all unrestricted free agents.
Mm-hmm.
So those are key players, role players that the Nets need. Like the Nets really needed role players this season. I mean, this series, and it showed. So they have to get some role players, and they got all those guys are unrestricted free agents. So we're going to see what they do with that. And I think that's very key how they handle those guys.
I agree too. I mean, the only question then is, who do the Nets, not a matter of who do the Nets bring in, but if you're a marquee free agent and you see the way things have gone down in Brooklyn, do you end up saying, yeah, I want to go there? Or do you kind of just go, yeah, that thing looks like a dumpster fire right now. You got KD and Kyrie, which is great, but I might be like, this thing's going to be a nightmare if I go in there. So I don't know if that's going to dissuade some people from actually, going to that team.
100%. And another thing I want to bring up. So you see a lot of old veteran players now.
Yeah.
They usually go to like guys who have a nice solid build and they just join in and try to win a ring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge never saw the floor.
Yeah.
Blake Griffin didn't get any time in game 1 or 2,
which I think was a mistake because in game 3 and 4 he actually did a good job locking people down,
and he made it in game 3. He got him back in that game.
Yeah,
made a couple huge shots. Like you said, he played very good defense. And then Andre Drummond, who was starting, but like you said, you didn't see him at all in game 3, or especially game 4. I didn't see him at all.
No, yeah.
Claxton's taking all his minutes,
and
Claxton's young, and he's probably only going to get better. So it's like, if you're like a veteran player nowadays, do you want to go? Like nothing, like you said, like Steve Nash didn't play any of these guys.
Yeah.
So what makes you think that's going to change?
Yeah, no, there were 100% issues with the rotations, and I think that also could be an issue that could affect some people. Another big issue, which we haven't even discussed yet, is Ben Simmons. I mean, I cannot stand Ben Simmons, and this was before he got traded to the Brooklyn Nets. I think he is wildly overrated, and I think that for the longest time where people have said, oh, Ben Simmons has all these intangibles, he has everything lined up for him as a player, and I've always been like, how? This man cannot make a shot outside of the paint. This is an NBA player we're talking about, and I don't understand how he's able to do that. I've talked multiple times about, when he was at LSU, he played into as far as he could get in the tournament. And as soon as the season ended, he did not attend a single other class, basically just went to the gym because he no longer had to worry about being suspended by the team. And I was like, okay, that, while you may not like that in terms of academic integrity, this man shows that he's married to the game and, is really trying to improve on his craft, but he still can't make a jump shot. And I'm like, how are you going to be in the gym constantly and still not able to make a jump shot? I mean, he recently I called a reporter and said, hey, watch this and dunk the ball. And I'm like, yeah, man, you're almost 7 foot tall. I sure hope you can dunk the ball. I mean, yeah, I get that you have a back injury, but even out of a wheelchair, man, you should be able to dunk a basketball when you're 6'10". I'm sorry. It's ridiculous.
I couldn't agree anymore. And I want to shout out Coach Grasso because there's two types of basketball players, especially at that level.
Yes.
I don't care about the money. I don't care about all the antics and stuff like that. Ben Simmons, you either go with the gym, you put the work in, you get shots up, and you get better. Or you cry, you sit at home, be a baby, and do nothing. And that's how he's acting right now. He's acting like a baby. And when the Nets needed him most, because they're paying him $50 million or whatever it is, they're going to pay him next year because you're not going to get rid of him because you got to pay him anyways.
Yeah, so, might as well make the trade with James Harden worth it, I guess.
That's what I'm saying. You might as well make the trade worth it. So he just pretty much gave up on them.
Yeah,
and at the time most needed, he gave up.
And I want. So here's the thing. And I'm assuming those were Grasso's words regarding Ben Simmons.
That 100%.
Yeah. And I wonder if Baby had some other. I'm wondering if he said Baby or something else there.
Oh yeah, he definitely said something. This was earlier in the year when like September, right when we started practice.
I was about to say because I know Grasso's a colorful guy, so I had to figure that was a little watered down. But all right, yeah, no. So I see this whole situation with Ben Simmons, and part of me does wonder whether he actually, thought that he was going to be playing in these games or if it was, leaked from the media, because there are some talks that, an insider basically said this and then it caught some momentum. And then, people thought that this was real and it never was going to, and Ben Simmons never really was going to play. And this turned to that whole situation. But I'm just like, I've heard those rumors and I'm like, even if that was the case, if the Nets got wind that, oh, people think Ben Simmons is going to play, they should come out and say, no, Ben Simmons is shut down right now. He isn't eligible to play, and just take it out, just take it off the radar. That's it. If you're the Nets and there's an inkling or, a slight possibility that Ben Simmons can come back, I'd hold that off until the last possible minute and just be like, hey, we're going to throw this guy out at you. But even in the case, man, I don't know what he would have provided to the series. I don't think that, I don't I think his skills as a passer are wildly overrated. So, I mean, you already have Kyrie Irving out there who's, a good enough point guard to spread the ball around. So I've never understood Ben Simmons' wealth, and I've never understood, why he is so valuable. So the fact that it came to this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Robert Williams, who a month ago tore his meniscus, got a faster surgery than what would have been, the more successful type of surgery, just so that way he could get back out on the court and start grinding. Tiger Woods, who last year got in a car accident, nearly lost his life and almost lost his leg, competed in the Masters. Yeah. And, before Ben Simmons.
Man. It's all heart. It's all about, do you care about this team? Do you care about the players you're playing with?
And he doesn't.
And he just doesn't care.
He's never cared. I mean, he's always whined. And I don't get it. I mean, the people of Philly have finally turned on him. And I don't know. It's weird because for a long time, I was very anti Ben Simmons when a lot of people when a lot of people in the media ended up saying, oh, he's, you just don't get the appeal with him. You don't get, why he's so good and why he's so valuable. And same thing with Kyrie, when I'm saying, no, he was the issue with Boston. It's not the Boston fans. It's that he was the issue towards Boston. And rightfully so. Both of those are now coming true. People realize, oh yeah, Kyrie was the issue, because people are now saying on ESPN and whatnot, oh yeah, the Celtics are better off without Kyrie, when they didn't think that was the case at first. And people are now realizing, oh, Ben Simmons is, I think Stephen A put it perfectly, the most pathetic excuse for a professional athlete in my mind. I mean, if you have anything to give for that team, if you have 10 minutes worth of basketball in you, you go out there and you play.
It's like the same thing with Zion Williamson. You see him doing all these between the leg dunks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You don't see him on the court, but like Reggie Miller's like, you could give me 15 minutes. You're doing that, my man.
Yeah.
Like that takes some athletic, like that takes skill. That takes athletic, like your muscles got to be healthy to do that.
Part of me wonders though, if it can though, because I mean, I will say this, I do think that Ben Simmons did hide from going out on the court, but if Ben Simmons had a shot, I think there's a chance he plays in those games, because you could at least run him off ball and have him in certain situations to where you pass to him, have him shoot, and it's going to be, very minimal contact situations. Ben Simmons, though, needs to score under the basket. He needs to get down there in the paint and be very physical with guys, which I think plays a different role. If, Ben Simmons had the shot of a guy like Blake Griffin, I think there's a shot he plays in those games. But because he doesn't, and he needs to score, within 2 feet of the basket, I think that cripples him.
Nah, that's a very good point. And like I said, but like, it's just going back to your point, just don't give it hope. Don't give it hope. And this was before the series we're talking about. Ben come back. Like, oh, you can come back early as game 3, game 4.
And that was the thing too. I was like, okay, game 3. Yep. You're going to be back in your hometown. You could just keep him in Brooklyn and, get him healthy over those next couple of days. And then, you hit the ground running in that series and you get him back on the court. And then I was like, okay, you make a case with that. But game 4 was what blew my mind. You have game 3 is where you needed him back. And the fact that it was like, yeah, we'll get him in for game 4. I'm like, that's a glorified preseason game at that point.
After the Celtics won game 3 this year. So no matter if you bring back Ben Simmons, it did not matter. The season ruined with that game.
No, exactly. I mean, a 3-0 comeback has only happened once in the history of professional sports, courtesy of your Boston Red Sox. But I mean, literally, like, it's not going to happen outside of that. Like, I mean, the Celtics were just completely dominating them. And when I ended up saying, oh, he's going to come back for game 4, I'm like, that's the most pathetic excuse ever. Yeah. Like that's ridiculous.
And even like just watching game 4, like Max Kellerman said, he's like, when KD was hitting the big shots and the Kyrie hit the big 3 and the KD hit the floater, it's like the whole time you're like, they're not winning this game.
No,
they're not winning this game. It didn't matter how close they could have gotten the lead. The Nets were just not going to win.
Yeah.
And I think the addition of Ben Simmons, it wouldn't have changed anything. And I think he knew that, and I think he was like, all right, screw it, I'm not playing.
Yeah, when the biggest story regarding him outside of his, lack of play was his outfit choice, I'm like, that's how you know it's bad. I mean, what was going on with that? I mean, I'm sorry, like everyone over there, I can understand, like, Kemba Walker was a big suit guy when he was here in Boston, was always, either in like the purple blazers or was wearing, something cool on the sidelines. And I get it, man. Like, fashion is what it is in the NBA. These guys have so much money. It's unbelievable. So I understand these guys, showing off some of their wealth, but you're on the bench here, man. Like, I don't know, have something at least kind of matching team's colors, have something, a little more muted. I don't get why, these guys have to do like the Jack Harlow or the Joe Burrow shades, on the sideline, showing those off. I'm just like, what was going on with that? That was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was so ridiculous. And like, at the end of the day, he's getting paid to play basketball, not sit on the bench, dress, look good, and like I said, he's getting paid to play basketball and to play a sport that many people wish they could play their entire lives. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying?
And the thing too is, while he, would have to play a more physical role down low, it's not like he's getting in the octagon and has to go fight a guy. It's not like he's, battling back from, a fracture like orbital socket, from MMA and, is trying to make sure everything's, okay. Yeah, he has a back injury, but you can come back from that and you can at least, have some sort of a presence. I mean, that's just what killed me.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add, so like when Paul Elijah's tore his meniscus.
Yeah, and just quickly before anyone who doesn't know, outside of Bryant, Paul Elijah is our center here at Bryant University. So quickly, just wanted to get quick
little intel. So like he tore his meniscus after, or his MCL, sorry, after the LIU game. But like when he came back, it was like a 4-week process where he couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
and then 2 weeks. He was live, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like live, but he was banging down low. He's playing bigger guys just to make sure it was okay. Yeah, so Ben Simmons is doing the exact same thing.
Absolutely. He's doing the exact same thing.
He's feeling the hits. He's feeling everything. It could be a pad. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's feeling something.
And what I heard about Hall too, is I think Grosso said it in his exit interview and it was basically, Hall isn't doing practices right now. He's going and we're just putting him in the game situation because we realize we can only have him for the moments when we need him. Yeah. And we don't know, when that knee was going to give. So we were only using him in those game situations. So the fact that Ben Simmons can't do that when his team needs him, it just shows that he's never had that heart and he'll quit on any team possible. So I don't know how you can trust Kyrie Irving. I don't know how you can trust Ben Simmons. And then Kevin Durant too. I mean, I'll say this about him. I mean, the fact that he doesn't, have the, the mental fortitude to handle some criticism from people nowadays is ridiculous. I mean, this man's been doing burner accounts since, his days with the Thunder. I mean, I don't get him. You're one of the best players in the league, but you have the thinnest skin of all time. It's ridiculous. And, this leads up to, his latest, outburst, which came on Instagram when Charles Barkley called him out during the TNT broadcast, and he ended up calling him a quote bus rider for for going to the Golden State Warriors and winning 2 championships there. And he ended up saying, yeah, man, it's different when you're driving the bus, and basically saying, yeah, you need to, like, when you're controlling your own destiny, it's very different. And in response to that, Kevin Durant posted on his Instagram story photos of Charles Barkley with the Houston Rockets, with the Philadelphia 76ers, when Chuck was surrounded by tons of talent. I mean, he had Scottie Pippen at one point, he had Clyde Drexler, yeah. And then, even go back to his days with the Sixers. So I mean, listen, Chuck had plenty of, Charles Barkley had plenty of talent on his side. Yeah, he didn't get it done, which is a huge issue. But I will say this, he did have Michael Jordan, who he had to go up against, which I get it. You have LeBron in this league, but at the same time, man, like, you are like a LeBron type. You are one of these,
Kevin Durant is the best player in this league.
Absolutely.
I'll be the first one to say it.
At this point, yes. I mean, LeBron had it for a while, but he's getting up there in age. And what KD can do, just like the shot that he has, the presence that he has. I mean, he plays like a point guard. He's fat. He's incredibly quick with the ball for a guy of his size.
He's 7 foot tall. He has a great dribble and he has a great stroke.
Yeah.
Like
he shoots like he's a foot shorter than he is. So crazy. The fact that he can't contain himself, and the fact that, after this series, he's, the first thing he's doing is just watching the TNT broadcast to see what the guys are going to say about him. I'm just like, that's the most pathetic thing ever, man.
It's sad. It's like you said, they didn't care.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I brought up before, like no one cared. No one had heart in this series. And that's why they just got swept. They got mopped.
Yeah. And now you're complaining afterwards. And I'm just like, I don't know, if you had a little bit of heart during the series, maybe you wouldn't have gotten embarrassed. Maybe you wouldn't have won. But the fact that you got embarrassed like this is why people are talking about you. If this thing went 7 and the Celtics eked it out, it could have been like, you know what? The Celtics are on the rise. They're the better team. And, you played a good series. But the fact that you went out like this is what made it so pathetic. So, I mean, I don't really know what more to say on that. I mean, it's ridiculous that Kevin Durant is still doing this stuff. So, yeah,
it's ridiculous. And the one thing I want to say, you think it's going to bother a guy like Charles Barkley? Barkley deals with Shaq all the time. And he gets hate because he never won the ring. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he's dealing with that all the time. You think this is going to bother him? Chuck's got tough skin. And he's right. KD, he didn't get it done in OKC.
No, I mean, Charles Barkley said the exact same thing. He could have posted photos of him, of KD, Russell Westbrook, Harden, and Serge Ibaka, and ended up saying, "What did you guys do? Y'all lost to the Heat." I mean,
I don't even think Chuck knows how to work an Instagram or any social media in his life, but if he was able to manage it, he would do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what he would have done. Because listen, Kevin Durant outside of Golden State hasn't done anything. I mean, he went to the Warriors, and granted, the Warriors kind of gave him the keys to that team. Steph Curry did take a step aside, and that is Steph Curry's team, and it always will be his team and his city. But when it came to the way that offense was run, they ended up saying, all right, the offense is going to run through Kevin Durant.
100%. But what was previous to that year? What was the Warriors record?
73-9.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the team was legit. They just came off a great year. They lost in the finals they blew a 3-1 lead.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that, like, a lot of things went happen that year, and then he joined a 73-9 team.
Yeah.
73 win team. That's huge, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, of course you're going to end up winning after that.
And the league at that time really wasn't. The East was bad.
Oh, the East was atrocious.
And us, it was the Celtics.
Yeah. And it wasn't even like the good Celtics at the time. Like, Kyrie had just come here, but he got injured in one of the postseasons, and then the
young Tatum, young Brown.
Yeah. And then the other postseason right after that, a lot of toxicity set in with that team, and things went, and we were out in the second round of the Bucks. So, LeBron ran the East at that point, and then, there was really no competition at that point. It's flip-flopped now, but, Kevin Durant is in the Eastern Conference, where a lot of people thought he was going to thrive and, would just shut down the Celtics' potential growth. And, lo and behold, that isn't even the case. So
he had 1 year, one chance, and Giannis took that out of his hands, and now Tatum and Brown took it the next year. And like I said, we don't know what the future holds, but Brooklyn, the Nets they're in shambles right now, and
absolutely,
we'll see what happens with them.
With the Celtics, though, obviously, we talked about them as they move forward. What is your ceiling for them at this point? Do you think the championship, dreams are reasonable?
I do believe so, because I think, like I said, I think Milwaukee's they'll take care of business tonight. I believe they play tonight. I don't know off the top of my head, but they don't have Chris Middleton, and that's a huge loss. And then I think no matter what, any of those four teams, because I got Heat and I got the Philly winning. Heat already won, but I got Philly winning as well.
Yeah.
So I think any of those four teams can win it. So, but I think the Celtics have the easiest chance to get to the conference finals.
Yes.
And then I like their odds, because I think if they play the Heat, they're more talented than the Heat.
Yeah.
And then if they play the Sixers, they're going to do exactly what they did to Kevin Durant. They're going to do that, and what they're going to do to Giannis, to Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I do agree, and I think that our defensive presence, we're the most healthy team in the league right now. Right now,
100%.
I mean, losing Robert Williams was huge for us. We thought he was going to be done for the rest of the season, and it was going to be almost impossible to come back. Obviously, the first two games of that series against the Nets proved that we have some life without him down low. But with him back, with all of our guys reasonably healthy, we have the path is opening up for us. I mean, you mentioned Middleton, but Jimmy Butler is also apparently dealing with some knee injuries at this point. So so he's dealing with some knee injuries. So the path is there for us to make a finals run. Now, on the other side of that, we have, some incredible teams that could come out. We have the Suns, who have been doing their thing, and then we have the Warriors, who I wonder what you think about them, because
I like them.
I do too.
I like them a lot,
because Klay Thompson seems like he's all the way back. Maybe not defensively, but offensively,
and that kid Jordan Poole's a bucket.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted a third splash brother, and they got one.
I mean, Steph came off the bench and came three, like Steph Curry, man.
Like, what is going on? Like, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, they obviously have something really good brewing out there. I think the Celtics match up well with them in terms of size. I just wonder if they get hot, if it's just going to be, rapid fire. That's the only thing I worry about a Celtics Warriors final.
100%. And then that's what I think it's going to be. I think it's Celtics Warriors, because obviously Phoenix doesn't have Booker.
Yeah.
So they'll be lucky if they get past New Orleans.
That's true.
And I think they will. And then they play the winner of Utah versus the Mavs. I like them. I like Luka. I like the Mavs.
Yeah.
They play tough. And Luka's, this is probably his best chance. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
So, but I like the Celtics just because in the Warriors matchup, because they could beat them up down low, because they got small guards. You know what I'm saying? Like Klay Thompson will be guarding Jaylen Brown. Like I said, he's not the same defender like he once was.
Yeah.
And then you'll have JT on, I don't even know who's their three. I don't even know.
For
the Warriors, I don't even know off the top of my head.
I mean, for a three guard, probably Wiggins.
Yeah, Wiggins, or it's Iguodala. You know what I'm saying? So those two guys, and JT, the way JT's been playing, he's hot, and he's playing with so much confidence. He's playing at the highest level he's ever played at.
I mean, the Warriors too, though. I mean, credit to them, credit to this guy. I mean, Draymond Green, who I didn't think would even be a factor anymore. I mean, the fact that he is still relevant and is able to do what he does is mind blowing to me. I mean, he's relatively undersized for his position. And I was like, all right, big guy like that playing down low, playing his position, he'll eventually, kind of just get beat up and is going to, deal with some injury issues over time. That's usually what you see with these guys. And then him being undersized, even if he's able to come back from those injuries, he's not gonna be able to outmatch these, newer, bigger guys, but he's done just that.
He's locking up MVP right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, Draymond Green has been awesome. And he's, one of those pieces that if you have a championship team on around you, he's awesome. And then also James Wiseman down low, has been, great on the rebounding side for them as well. And, really just completes that Warrior squad.
So like I said, I think it'd be a great series. I got like 6-7, I got a 6-game series, but and like I said, they got Steph Curry too. Yeah. So it'll be really tough, but I think it'd be really competitive and really fun to watch.
I do too. I think it'll be a very fun series to watch. Now, I want to switch it up on you before we do go down to the wire and and wrap things up. I want to talk some Major League Baseball with you.
Gotcha.
So on Sunday Night Baseball, former Red Sox outfielder and first baseman. It was kind of an experiment we ran with him here. Kyle Schwarber, rightfully, so I will say, lost it on Angel Hernandez on a strike 3 call during the 9th inning of Sunday Night Baseball. It was a 3-2 count, and the strikeout on Schwarber made it 2 outs in the 9th. It was a 1-0 ball game, and the Phillies are facing Josh Hader. Had that pitch been rightfully called, Schwarber goes to first, and at that point, who knows what happens? It's the 9th inning. Right. You possibly rattle a guy. There's a chance you rattle Josh Hader. Mm-hmm. The man behind the plate, the infamous Angel Hernandez, decides to ring him up, and Schwarber, again, rightfully just chucks his bat to the ground, helmet on the ground, and just runs up in his face and literally says, "You've missed here, you've missed here, you've missed outside, inside." And he points to the Milwaukee bench and he goes, "You've missed on both sides." Yeah. And typically, as someone who's played baseball, it's like, oh, well, you'll accept the umpire's call if they're consistent on both sides. There's a point to that though, when the umpire is so consistently atrocious, which Angel Hernandez is. I mean, he's the worst umpire in baseball, and he has been for years. And it's ridiculous that they can't get rid of him at this point. I think his accuracy rating during Sunday Night Baseball was around 85%, which some people are going to go, well, he called 85% of pitches correctly. And I'm like, yeah, but that's on pitch. That's discounting foul balls, discounting a lot of these other pitches. So they're much more meaningful than you think. I think in terms of strikes, only 77% of them were called effectively. So 1 out of every four strikes was not called effectively.
That's really bad.
Yeah. So that was pretty bad. And then, the worst, call of all, the Schwarber call was bad, and that cost him a lot. But there was another pitch to Gene Segura. It was earlier in the game, and it missed inside by close to 7 inches. I mean, I'm
looking at it right now. It's crazy.
Segura literally had to duck out of the way. And as soon as Angel calls this up, he just looks back and he goes, "Are you joking?" I mean, I know for a lot of people, calling a strike zone, if you're doing it for the first time, it may be difficult, but Angel Hernandez has been in the MLB now for 30 plus years. He's been doing this for a good amount of time. And the fact that he still cannot get this right is ridiculous to me. I mean, he's, any MLB player that sees him, on the game card when they show up has gone out and said, yeah, some guys just don't want to play that day.
Yeah. And like I said, I think he's got to go. I mean, that's just going to, like you said, going to the statistics, it's bad. And like I said, I'm looking at this picture, this picture right now, it's really bad. Yeah. But I will say this. So as a former baseball player, I used to play, I only played up I played up until 8th grade. Okay. But what I hear a lot about hitters and everything. So after the first time they're up, they always talk and they get a feeling what the strike zone's like. Yeah. Whether he's low, whether our player's low, whether he's high, the outside, inside, they get a feeling what the strike zone is. So I didn't watch the game at all. I didn't follow it, but I feel like when it's 9th inning, and it's a very close call. It was close. It was close enough.
And I will agree with that. I think it was a close enough call, and I think that Schwarber probably should have swung at that pitch.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm not the type of person that goes, it wasn't in the box. I actually hate the fact that they show the box on these games.
I agree because every umpire has their own strike zone. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, players talk. Players, they like, all right, he's inside, so you gotta cover the inside, or he's outside. You gotta watch the outside. It's a 3-2 count. Looks outside, make sure you get a chip ball, and that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, I've been, I had one umpire that, he, I'm not going to name him on the show, but he goes, I mean, I love the guy, but he infamously had a strike zone where, players would go in and it'd be like, yeah, strike zone is nose to toes. Just if your bat can touch it, swing. and it was like, okay, I just know I'm going to have to, if I know I can physically put my bat on the ball, I got to just at least try to do it. And I was like, and so there are some guys that are really going to squeeze you, and it's like, okay, if it's called consistently enough, it's like you get it. But with Angel Hernandez, there's just been no seemingly type of effort by MLB to fix it. And these guys are supposed to be the best of the best. And I don't necessarily need you to be within that box. But when it comes to being this bad, man, something needs to change. I know you can't. For some reason, you can't send an umpire down. Like I feel like Angel Hernandez should have been sent down years ago because it's so bad, man. It's so apparent. But there's so many unions protecting him. I know in the past, he was left off some games and then filed like a discrimination lawsuit at one point. He ended up saying that at one point the MLB was keeping him off because he was Latino and was doing stuff like that. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like I would have no, dude. Like from what I've heard, like people in the Latino community, even attacked him and said, no, man, that's not the case. They're keeping me off. They're keeping me off because you suck. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. So like, it's bad. So like people are like, no, man, like we don't care what you look like. We care how your strike zone looks. Like that's all we've ever cared about. Because when you're behind the plate, man, you have a mask on your face. Like we've never cared about that. So, I mean, it's completely anonymous until you make yourself known. I mean, the worst part about Angel Hernandez is that, and a lot of these umpires too, is that they have these power trips and they feel like they need to leave their mark on the game. And I'm like, no, you just need to make sure that the thing is called correctly. You don't need to be like, oh yeah, this is my call. And, I'm going to dictate how the game is called. If, let the players decide how this thing is going to play out, because basically at the end of the day, Angel Hernandez was the player of the game for, Sunday Night Baseball, and the major talking point for Sunday Night Baseball, which for the MLB is the worst possible thing you want. The last thing you want, I mean, they suck with marketing as it is. They're MLB is atrocious with marketing. Yeah. They don't know how to market their players. Either, any big post you see on MLB's page is either Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani, which great. I love them as players. Show some of these other guys. That's what I would say. Show some of these other guys. And they don't do that. And, when a guy like Angel Hernandez is your big talking point after a great pitcher's duel on Sunday Night Baseball, you have a problem.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, an umpire, especially an umpire behind the plate, should never be the focal point in the discussion. And I mean, Kyle Schwarber made it a little interesting too with his antics and everything like that, which he rightfully did. And at the end of the day, he did what he did. Got thrown out, and that was it.
And I mean, at that point too, like if you want to know like how bad the MLB realizes Hernandez is, Schwarber isn't facing a suspension right now from the MLB. He was eligible to play, the day after that. Yeah. So I'm just like, so they know that he's bad, but they're just like, yeah, man, we have to put him on these games. Yeah, it's like we got to.
It's like this is Sunday Night Baseball. Everyone's watching. It's a big deal, and you got this guy behind the plate, and he, like you said, going back to this statistics. It's awful. It's not even close.
I me's cost the Red Sox on some calls, back during the 2018, divisional round series against the Yankees. Like he's been in some very meaningful games and had some calls that really, go the other way and just absolutely screw the other team. So, I mean, he has become, the fact that like we know who these guys are is a problem. Yeah, we should know who they are. I mean, a guy like Gene Steratore, I get it because he got a TV job and he had a personality outside of that. So you want to give him a job, sure. You want to give some of these umpires a job and they kind of make a name for themselves outside of it, great. But when these guys are just known for, oh, this is going to be an Angel Hernandez game, oh, this will be fun. Like as soon as you know that, it's like Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, I agree. And but like I said, hopefully the MLB does something about this and they realize like it's getting bad. It's getting out of control. They got to take initiative and maybe they bump them down, but maybe they stay with them. I don't know, but there's only so much you can do, especially if you stick with them. Because the guy, he's like you said, he's been doing this for like 20 plus years. It's not just going to change.
Eventually there needs to be a breaking point, and I hope MLB finally reaches one. I mean, I don't think you can think of a better one than this when, one of these star players of a new team absolutely is losing his mind, does not have any regard for getting suspended, and is just absolutely livid at a guy. And I mean, listen, Kyle Schwarber's a passionate guy. To see him that fired up, though,
oh my God,
is remarkable. I mean, he was through the roof.
He was in fumes.
But anyways, man, unfortunately, Michael, we are now down to the wire, which means that we're going to wrap up everything we talked about in this episode very quickly and get you guys on with your night. We started things off talking about the Celtics 4-0 sweep of the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, credit to the Celtics again. They will face the winner of the Milwaukee Heat of the Milwaukee versus Bulls series. Most evidently it will be Milwaukee. So we'll have to see how that plays out. We talked about the future of guys like Steve Nash and Kyrie Irving. We also talked about Ben Simmons opting to sit out of the crucial games 3 and 4 as the Nets trailed in the series. And we also talked about KD going after Charles Barkley on social media after Charles called him a quote bus rider. Quick little tidbit on the on that too with the Brooklyn Celtics series. Something I wanted to touch on this show as well was in game 3, Scott Foster, we talked about infamous officials. Scott Foster was the referee for the Celtics Celtics game 3 against Brooklyn. In games where teams have faced elimination in Scott Foster games coming into this one, the team facing elimination is 19-2 in Scott Foster officiated games. And
19-2.
So yeah, it's as blatant as it gets. Like, it's bad. So for anyone who doesn't know, Scott Foster he was never found guilty, but he has some ties to Tim Donaghy, the crooked ref in the NBA that, that got caught for fixing games. Cause I learned about this through a bit on 98.5 The Sports Hub, but they did a thing, but they ended up talking about how Donaghy, when they looked into him, had like phone calls that would last 30 seconds where he would call Scott Foster for 30 seconds, hang up, call like the middleman that did the illicit dealings with him, and then call Scott Foster back. And there are like hundreds of examples to where they did this. Yet for some reason they ended up saying, oh yeah, Donaghy was just a rogue ref. He did this on his own. There was no one else that followed him. And I'm like, that's total BS. Of course there were other followers. I mean, it was probably his whole crew that was in on it. I mean, the funny thing about Donaghy though is that he says, well, he, did call some games, he never made a bad call. And I'm like, okay. But same thing with Scott Foster. I mean, he's earned the term the extender because, the NBA, it's all about profit. They realize, all right, the Celtics are probably going to win this thing anyways. Might as well get another game out of it, get some more ticket revenue, get some more TV revenue, and, have them close it out in Boston. It'll mean more there. So I don't know what the deal with Scott Foster is. I think the NBA honestly should look into him at this point because, Chris Paul's complained about him in the past too, because I think Chris Paul's 0-14 in his last, in the last couple of Scott Foster playoff games or something that he's played in. So something is brewing with him too. So, Angel Hernandez is just bad. I don't think he's calling games and doing anything. I think Angel Hernandez is just blind. Scott Foster, there's something stinks with him. And I think that the NBA really needs to take a look because it's getting pretty bad now.
It was. And like I said, with the Jason Tatum call, it was bang, bang. But as a ref, I don't think you're in any situation to make a call in that situation. You know what I'm saying? And it could have cost seize the game, as you said.
100%. I mean,
the game, we could be literally talking about Celtics Nets game 5
100%
back in the Garden. But yeah, luckily the Celtics got it done, and Scott Foster is 19-3 now.
I love to see it. So, I mean, thank God. I mean, Scott Foster, you couldn't extend this one, so that really does suck for you. But after talking about some NBA stuff, I'm glad we were able to discuss that as well. But after discussing that, we ended up talking about the outburst of Kyle Schwarber towards Angel Hernandez. Obviously, very livid during his outburst, argued over a 3-2 pitch that was called for strike 3 in the 9th inning of a 1-0 ball game where he was facing Josh Hader. Angel Hernandez also, once again, missed a ball that was more than 6 inches inside on Gene Segura, which, I mean, again, people aren't going to realize how blatant that is. People will go, oh, 6 inches, that's less than the frame of this laptop computer. Yeah. But it makes a big difference, on a strike zone, 100%. Especially if it's on the black, because middle of the plate, 6 inches in, okay, it could be a little bit inside, but if you go from the black of the plate and you back that thing up, you're going to be going whoa, that thing's kind of like push it in. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, do you have any final thoughts on that before we end up closing this thing out?
No, I got nothing. No final thoughts. You summed it up very well. I give a quick little input, but yeah, I got nothing else, man.
All right. So before I shout my stuff out, I want to give you a chance to shout out any social medias of yourself, anything personally. If you have anything that you want to shout out right now, I'll give you a chance to do it right now.
Let's go. Let's give a shout out to my boy Grasso. Let's get it done next year, big man. And boys, I'm excited. All the boys in the sophomore class at Bryant University, they're excited for this upcoming season, and let's get it going.
Absolutely. Well, Michael, I really do appreciate you for coming on the show. And before we do close this out, if you're not following Down to the Wire at this point, what the hell are you guys doing? We're available everywhere you guys can stream podcasts, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. We also have the video stream of this show available on our YouTube, and you can find all of those links, all of them, in our Instagram at down.tothewire. Again, at down.tothewire on Instagram. Thank you guys again so much for watching. And from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Michael Callinan.
And we will see you guys next time. Take care and peace out.